Riding with Junebuggy is real. It's a passion project of mine. 8 years ago, thought about this in an apartment building in Boone, North Carolina. I'm here tonight with my beautiful bride, Madeline Mabe. We are recording our first episode. Hunt, I cannot believe this is real, but through a lot of praying, a lot of hard work, and a lot of just getting things, setting up, and coming up with a name, Riding with Junebuggy. Hunt, you came up with that name on your own. And we took that from my baseball nickname, and we were we were talking about before we went on. You're a pastor's daughter, a preacher's daughter, and you a preacher's granddaughter, and you've even said that you have residents now preaching to walls, and so. Which is a good thing, but you guys do a lot of church, sounds like, in your nursing home. Is that something that's really liked upon the residents there?
Oh yeah. The residents love the church.
Residents love the church, and we know a couple that go to our church.
They really miss going to church when you come in the nursing home. Obviously, it's hard to go anywhere, but the one place they want to go is church.
Right. Do you do a lot of, I guess, Christian activities, spiritual activities with them?
I mean, we do all sorts of activities. When they want to go to church, sometimes we do a little church setup and we sing some Jesus Loves Me. And
Amazing Grace.
Oh yeah, if you have a senior and they love to sing, or even if they don't love to sing, just start singing Amazing Grace, because that's the one song everyone knows.
Now, do you guys do the praise God things with your hands up in the air and all that?
Praise God.
Oh yeah.
I find it weird if people don't do that.
Oh wow.
That verse.
I've been to churches that do it. I've been to churches that don't do it. And I think from my perspective, I like when we do it, but I'm not knocking the people that don't do it.
I just feel like it's like, oh wait, that's in the song. Okay.
That's sometimes how I feel too. And I'm thinking like
I don't know, we've always done it growing up.
Well, growing up, oh yeah, because I mean, you grew up, like I said, your dad was a pastor, and you've been all over. It sounds like you've been all over the state, and you got saved in Durham.
To the sea.
You got saved in Durham, right? Was it Durham you got saved? Now, you were baptized in what, a pool?
Also in Durham.
Was that in a pool? I believe you said.
Yeah.
Well,
we had a pool. I don't know whose pool it was. Well, I have a vague idea whose pool it was. But after the pool baptism, and then our church got a baptism. It was, you know what they have these days?
Baptismals,
but then the preacher doesn't even get wet.
A lot of them don't. No,
I've never seen that till a few years ago.
Right, and when I got baptized in a river in 2003 in March, and I remember it was cold. It was a really cold time, and I remember.
Yeah, you can't heat the river.
No.
Wait, was it in summer?
No, March. It was still like cold, and it was spring, but you know March, how weird it is and everything with weather. It was daylight savings time, I think it happened, and I remember that in 2019 I got baptized again, and I don't even know if it was called a pool, but it was inside the church building we were in, and the preachers didn't get wet then. Now the one in the river, the preachers got wet.
Yeah.
But so
maybe you would like to explain what a baptism is.
Well, baptism to me, and a lot of people take this differently. There's churches now trying to get away from it, but the baptism is submersion, is public profession of faith. It doesn't save you. So for people who think that it doesn't save you, the only way you can get saved is when you read Romans 10:13. And for all who, let me just pull it up because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to butcher it if I don't. And for those who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And that's Romans 10:13. And again, I'm pulling it up, and I think, again, for me, water baptism to me is a public profession of faith saying, yes, I'm serving the Lord. Yes, I'm saving, or yes, I was saved. And that's just how it's like. For me, it's like an example of the water representing Jesus' blood that's washing away your sins. That's how I look at it.
I understand that Jesus himself was baptized.
Yeah, John the Baptist baptized him.
Is that why they call him John the Baptist?
I would assume so.
Baptizing people?
Romans 10:13, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed, and how shall they believe in him whom they have not heard, and how shall they hear without a preacher? Well, but going back to what you said there, John the Baptist even baptized Jesus. That's amazing fact in itself. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't believe that, and we're living
in John the Baptist
or Jesus, like Jesus being baptized. You look at some religions don't believe that, and I don't have them in front of me right now, but I just know that we're living in a time today where church is not viewed as kindly as it used to be. When I grew up, everybody was in church. Everybody. In fact, I came in after 2001, the 9/11 attacks, and everybody was in church that Sunday after, praying for the country, doing what they needed to do because they believed that God was there, that needed to be there. They believed they needed the Lord. So,
now, why do you think that people showed up after a crisis, but they won't show up like a random Sunday in March?
I don't know. That's a good question. I really didn't. I've never thought about it. Well, I take that back because if you remember 2020, they didn't show up either because we have this thing called social distancing. And for those of you who don't remember it, I'm just going to reiterate this: 2020, stay 6 feet apart unless you're with your family. And even then, some people stayed 6 feet apart from them as well. But they didn't even want to, right, they didn't even want to come out. And I don't know, I guess, and technology's gotten way more advanced. In fact, when I was coming in, the Nintendo 64 was still the big thing on the market. And video games weren't as, I guess, I don't want to say they weren't as popular, but they weren't as big as they are now. Cell phones, a lot of that wasn't that
How old are you?
Technologically advanced. I'm 34 years old. I sound like a 65-year-old right now.
Cell phone.
Right. But I remember back to your question, why do I think people showed up then compared to a random Sunday in March now? There's a couple of reasons, I think. One, because some of them can't. I know some of them can't physically come, which is why live streaming's become a big thing. And a second thing is, I believe live streaming's taken over the church. And don't get me wrong, I love running live stream. I love doing it. I think it's a great thing. But there are people out there that...
There was no live stream in 2001.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, technology's taken over.
Are you saying you believe this church attendance overall was better?
Oh, yeah.
10 years ago?
2001 church attendance was way better. We went back, if you remember, we went to church back where I got saved at, and back in April, and the attendance was, I don't want to say way down, but it was definitely different. You can tell a difference in attendance in some churches. So I want to say that churches are...
You wouldn't say, you don't think that, like, the fact that terrorist had just crashed into the Twin Towers caused people who don't go to church to go to church.
I think so. I think that had a lot to do with it.
You know, fear is a big factor.
Fear
Not the TV show, but
fear did become. You were right. Shout out to Joe Rogan and Fear Factor. That may be the only time we.
Did you see that made a new one?
I did, and I'm not a fan of it. But and no, it's definitely not. Well, and that's the thing. What you once had, and I believe this, like, you can't mimic what you once had. You can't do what you once had. And
that applies to the church too.
Like how so? Like, give me an example. I don't like
we're gonna go out and win souls the way we always do. Like, do you think churches should not embrace technology at all?
No. I'm not saying that. No.
Like any new tools.
No.
Be disregarded.
No. I'm not saying churches shouldn't embrace technology, because we're in that era. We're in that era of technology, and because, our church uses technology. We use the live stream cameras for people that are shut in. We use the live stream cameras for people that are sick. In fact, we've even been home one Sunday sick and hearing our pastor preach a message. Shout out to Tim Webb. And we hear the messages if we were coming. I remember we were coming home from your mom and dad's, and I remember you were riding with me. We listened to a message. Tim was preaching on, I can't remember the gist of the message, but I remember this. This is, I don't know why I remember this, but he was preaching on he in his message, he referenced Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. And I remember bits and pieces of that message. But no, technology, I don't think we should eliminate technology from church. I think we should embrace it, but use it for Jesus' glory. Now, there are people in churches that are going far beyond that and aren't using it for Jesus' glory, in my opinion. But my point is, I do think also that we need to embrace going out and giving tracts out, going out and doing visitation. And I know, and I've seen churches do that. In fact, we just did it recently. We did it, and when this show airs, probably in April, that we did it in March, a couple of Sundays to get prepared for the Easter service in April. And I think that's a big help to go lay tracts on people's doors, because what you're doing there is planting a seed. And when you plant that seed, you got to let the Lord grow it from there. And that's how electronically we can do it as well. Because, again, as long as we use it for Jesus' glory, it's fine, because that live stream equipment's useless without somebody behind it. The pulpit's useless without somebody. The piano's useless. I'm not saying they're torn up or messed up, but it's the person using their talents behind them that are using it for Jesus' glory. The electronic itself cannot, because it's an object. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Like playing the keyboard versus a stand-up piano, that in itself is not going to bring you closer to God either way. No. Playing the keyboard, playing the piano, because the instrument itself will not bring you to God. The person using their talents for God is what's going to bring that person in. It's not you going and playing an instrument. And I say this when I preach. I do not want people to come listen to just me. I want people to come listen to what God gave me for that person and for that church service. And if people are coming just for me, just to hear me, then that's pointless, because they're coming to say, oh, well, he's preaching tonight, I got to go hear him. Great. You want to go here and you want to get into church that way. That's fine. But it's what God brings in him. And pastors and preachers, evangelists, they're not there
Well, in my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, they shouldn't be there because of name recognition. They're there to serve the Lord. So, does that answer that question in a better sense? I guess
Sure.
because, and again, like
Things like that can tear churches apart.
what do you mean?
Like, a big thing in church today is the older generation against the newer generation. Like, oh, we've never had one of them. Well, we'll just say keyboard for instance. We've never had one of those fancy, smancy digital keyboards. And then the younger people are like, well, we don't want to hear the same dusty hymn on your grandma's organ.
I've heard that, and believe it or not, I've heard that.
It can tear a church apart.
So my response to that, because I've heard that, I've people have decided, hey, we don't want the nice piano, we don't want the nice organ, they want that new keyboard. They want slim, and it's slimmer. It's not easy. But
easier to carry.
I mean, it's not right. It's easier to carry, but it's people got to understand something. The instruments don't make the serving of the Lord. The instruments themselves. I mean, I still think people can have that nice keyboard. I still think people can have that nice piano, and it's going to serve the Lord. See, that's where people get it wrong. People's got to just use their talents to serve the Lord. It's a preference thing. And like, say this. Say, I prefer the piano. I like the piano. You're practicing piano a lot, taking lessons. I like that. But the keyboard, if we didn't have the piano, you'd practice on it. So it's a preference thing, but to go and say, well, we don't want this, we don't want those dusty hymns or something. Let me say something about that. Let me say something about that. Those hymns are some of the best songs out there, in my opinion. And
would you say is it's the same thing with the songs? Because the kids these days got their ramming, jamming, zip-zopping tunes, and then they don't want to hear any of the old people stuff, and the old people are like, these are the songs that saved my great grandma. How dare you even change one beat in this song? Or would you say, you know what? It's about worshiping God.
I think it's about worshiping the Lord, but also to that point, and I'm going to say this and everything because I believe it this way. I do not believe that all songs out there are for Jesus' glory. Does that make sense? Because I believe there's artists out there, there's people out there playing for name recognition only. Does that make sense? Because I see it as
in the Christian community.
Yeah, in the Christian community. Because I think too that
I'm sure Miley Cyrus never proclaimed.
Right? No. That's not what I'm saying.
Read a gospel hit.
It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, what I'm saying is that people's got to want to sing the song for Jesus, but there are artists out there just wanting to make money too. Does that make sense?
If I'm singing a song written by some blowjo who's just pumping out the hit, but I say it's the only song I know, and that's what I sing to worship Jesus. So would you think it's the same meaning as if I'm singing Amazing Grace? If
you're singing a song to worship Jesus just because you want to worship Jesus, as long as I believe God's in it, and as long as I believe the lyrics are good and everything, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, they can't be obviously profanity laced or like, I still believe Jesus has to be.
You don't believe in bad words?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I think it's more on the line of you need to sing it to worship the Lord, not to, like I said, make it a big rock concert, make it a big thing. And that's a lot of things like
my face off for Jesus.
No.
That
No, don't do that. That's not good. I believe that's no. But I believe too that we can. Wow, I believe that we can look at it in this way. Let me put it this way. So there are songs out there. I'm not a big contemporary fan, so I wouldn't listen to contemporary songs. And
Can you explain your reasoning?
Well, okay. Let me explain.
I don't like those beats.
Some of them I don't like the beats, and then there's some Christian artists, and I don't want to name artists here because again, with copyright and everything, we got to be careful. But so let's not try to say any bands' names or anything. But there's some bands out there that I firmly believe that I don't believe singing for the Lord. But I believe too that again, I like the old hymns. It's a preference. My preference is the old hymns. My preference is the hymnal. My preference is to make, lack of a better term, I just don't like for example, there's more than one version of Amazing Grace. And
sure,
I'm just not a big fan of the way they've changed it into a rock song because I think the other version, like the original hymn version, is better. So it's just a preference thing for me. I just like the old hymns. I like the piano. I like the organ we have at church, the bass that we have at church, the choir. I just like all that better. I like, again, we're going preferences here. So, but I'm not knocking people who sing those songs to, for Jesus. Just what I'm saying is sing it for the Lord. Use your talent for the Lord. Do not do it just for name recognition or money. Yeah, don't. Yeah, that's the point here. And so, and that's one of the things I like about our church. It's not about name recognition. It's not about money. It's about we're wanting to serve the Lord and we're wanting to do things right for God. So,
sure.
Does that answer that question pretty plainly?
Yeah.
So, and Jesus has to be the center of everything. Absolutely the center of everything in our, like, for example, for us, I told you, I gave you rules that I wouldn't marry you unless Jesus was the center of it. That was the main thing. So for that married couple out there, like, Jesus has to be the center of it. And I would ask this question, like, to you, like, would you say Jesus has to center the entire life?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Why though?
Well, first of all, if you're not, Jesus is not the center, or center, not center, center, then you can't do anything. You wouldn't even be a Christian,
right?
If you don't have Jesus.
Oh wow, that's I remember. You remember my first Sunday school lesson? Your face is rubbing against the microphone.
It reminds me.
What are you talking about?
About your Sunday school.
My first Sunday school lesson was Jesus' will. He wanted to do his Father's will, not his will. And that was the example Jesus always said, is that he wanted to do his Father's will, not his will. And he wanted to be, show that example of, I'm going to serve my Father. But
sure.
But I think too that, and we didn't even get to any of the notes I've had. So, which I mean, again, this isn't the only one we're going to do.
We might consider that for
another time. Part two. Yeah, like I said. But right. But let me ask this question, and you asked me this earlier. Like, would you? like, do you serve? Let me ask it a different way, because you asked me,
I mean, you should serve.
You asked me.
Lord Jesus Christ.
You asked me contemporarily. Why do I like the hymns over the contemporary songs?
Sure.
Again, like I said, that's a preference for you. What would you would be? It would a preference be for you as well, right?
In preference wise, I like both. There's some hymns I really like, and as far as in church, I know some are technically more difficult, or you have to have so many altos or basses, to sing them. So there are a lot that don't get sung just for that reason. But overall, I like a lot of hymns, and there are a lot of contemporary songs I like. Sure. Some are probably more appropriate than others to
Would you say that
sing in church rather than just, listening to your car.
Would you say that that's why you don't see a lot of some of the songs get played in church, because of those changeovers and altos and everything, and then there's some that's harder to play than others?
That I feel like that would be a good question for someone more musically inclined than I am. I don't really know why, choir leaders pick what they pick for the most part, but I do imagine that would play into it.
And I think
like, what songs do your pianists? What can they play?
I think too that a choir leader picks those songs because they're and again, we'll have to ask a choir leader or a pianist. But again, one of my opinions is, and it's like preaching. I'll use this: God has to put it on them. That is my personal opinion. God has to put the message. God has to put the song on there. And again, they're not up there to. Well, I'm not coming to. Don't come to hear me sing. Don't come to hear me preach. Come to hear what the Lord has for you. And I believe that's a good example of that. They're right there, like you said, like the choir. We don't know why, but I believe that's a good example. Like choirs do it because they have to pray about it, and that's the key here. Pray about what you're wanting to do. You can't just go up there and do it on your own. And I've learned that. Like I remember, and we're coming up on time actually, but and I remember my first message. If you remember, I was supposed to preach a week earlier than I did, but at the same time, I had a message wrote, and I was ready to go. But something, the Lord changed it at the very last minute, and I had a separate message wrote for another church. And then I prayed about it. And if you remember, I can't remember where we was. We was in a car somewhere. I said, I'm going to preach that same message again because that's what the Lord's put on me. So the Lord always has a plan. So, and that's the key here. And you've got to let God in your church. You've got to let God in your life. And you've got to let God in your Christian walk, or none of it works if you think about it that way. But like I said, we're coming up on time. Again, this is Junior Mabe, JJ the Junebuggy. You can follow me at JJ the Junebuggy. My wife, Madeline Mabe, will be with me throughout this. She may not be here weekly, but she will be here from time to time. We'll pick back up on this next time. We'll talk more about church. Again, we did not get to any notes that I wanted to, and that's a great thing because we can tell that God was in it, and we love just conversing and talking theologically. And I'll just tell you this, Dennis, I love talking theology. There's three things I love: politics, theology, sports. And everybody knows me, I'm a big wrestling fan. My wife, she loves to write books. She's wrote one. She loves to do art, and she is just using her talents for the Lord as well. So using your talents for the Lord and doing everything in that stature. And again, this is our first episode, so be easy on us in your comments. Clean comments, please. We will not accept profanity-laced comments. We want everything to be clean here on this platform. And just to give a couple things coming up in the future. We're going to have my pastor on probably in June. We're going to have another pastor on probably in May. Our first guest will be on in April, probably after Easter. So, and that's going to be a fun time. And again, we're going to be talking church related. We're going to be talking about marriage. We're going to be talking about life skills, and then sometimes we're going to be talking about the world and the conflicts in the world. And with that being said, Madeline, we are right at a little over 30 minutes. And is there anything you want to close with? Anything you want to say?
Yeah.
Well,
have a good day, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to Riding with Junebuggy. We will see you next time.